Wanel. Is Wanel or DOE here yet? No.
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, yeah, okay, great. Christy,
Yep, here.
okay, and Marshall Norman, okay, I see you. Okay,
I'm here.
all right, I think we're ready to start then. And I know
Also, we
that,
could have the ability to share screen.
So that's what a food hub is. Some food hubs will be just a larger farm in a specific area.
Yeah, you'll be able to share screen. We should be able to work.
Okay, great. Thank you.
And Charles, will you be able to drive mine?
I do think that Jim would agree that some people share their data. I just don't think we ever want to.
Right. Yes, this is the goal.
trying to make it bigger, that's. Okay. Okay, so I'm gonna call this meeting to order, or the Kupuna Caucus. We are so pleased today, you know, we've been hearing so much about the workforce shortage across the board, but especially dealing with our seniors, helping them, especially in long-term care facilities, as well as long-term care programs. So I'm really pleased that we have the lineup that we have today. So I want to thank all of you for joining us. My co-convener here is Rep Hashimoto, Troy Hashimoto. So he's here, Troy.
Hi, everyone. Hope you're doing well.
Great. He's from Maui. He's from Maui. He's has a lot of work on his plate, as well as long-term care. So I'm going to start by just going down the line and just introducing everyone, and then they'll just come on and talk about different aspects of workforce development. So then we open up for questions at the end, as we have a full lineup, and I'm so pleased that all of you could join us. Thank you. So Dr. Lee Buenconseo Lum is with the medical school, John A. Burns School of Medicine. She's the dean, acting dean, interim dean.
Yep.
So thank you so much for giving us your time. And she's going to talk about the workforce, at least the healthcare providers across the board as well, doctors, nurses, and Jana Hoshide is with Healthcare Association of Hawaii, and they've got a really innovative program training our CNAs that's much needed at the front line. Wanel Kaneshiro with the Department of Education Workforce Development Branch, getting them in as young as we can. And Christy Nishida with the UH Center on Aging, and what the university is doing to help the elderly programs. And Marshall Norman with UH Community College with Good Jobs Hawaii, which is a big program that's funding a lot of these innovative programs. So I'm going to start with Dr. Buenconseo Lum. Aloha. Want to start off?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Thanks so much for the opportunity. And I apologize, I won't be able to stay for the entire presentation, but I hope what I have to say will dovetail nicely with really what everyone else is going to do. So I will do my best to share my screen. I'm actually on the continent right now, and okay. Here we go. Okay, can you folks see this? Okay, good. So I'm going to just give a high-level overview of some of the things that the medical school is doing to help prepare the next generation of caregivers. And just in case not everyone is aware, I'm just going to quickly go through how one becomes a physician all the way to, being a geriatrician, but also talk about some of the things that we're doing for all of our medical students, so that regardless of what specialty they go into, that they will be able to support age-friendly health systems. And then lastly, just some key elements for how we're helping, how actually you're helping us grow the healthcare workforce for Hawaii. So as we all know, there's a lot of inequity and complexity in Hawaii. And while we do have the longest life expectancy on average, we do know that there are certain geographies that have 10 to 14 years less. And that has everything to do with food security, poverty, education, built environment, chronic disease burden, et cetera. And we do know that our population is in general getting poorer and hungrier. We kind of anticipated this during COVID, and sure enough, in the latest Medicaid data, they in fact are covering a third of Hawaii residents and more than half of Hawaii keiki. And you can see here at the bottom that I'm hearing some feedback. I just want to make sure you guys are hearing me okay.
Yeah, I think
Okay, I'm
someone's microphone was on. So we're gonna ask if everyone can mute their microphone, please. Thank you.
Okay, so let me get back to what I was sharing. Okay, so 50% of the Kupuna are without access to adequate food, and we know that certain geographies are actually worse than that. And of course, this data was before the fires in Maui. And I apologize, the font is a little bit funny because I'm presenting this from my iPad. But this is just in case you're not aware, the vision of the medical school is to attain lasting optimal health for all, and or aloha. And really, we updated our strategic plan in the last couple of years to be very deliberate about making sure that diversity, equity, and inclusion were within each strategic goal. Our core values have always been around collaboration, diversity and inclusion, excellence, innovation, discovery, and doing things correctly, pono. And we have doubled down on those efforts in, certainly the last 5-6 years. With all of the changes going on in society. This is just a quick roadmap of how one becomes a physician. And so there's a lot of pre-med, which, really starts in some cases elementary school, but certainly intermediate, high school, college. And these are a lot of the pathway programs. And certainly you'll hear much, much more about the wonderful things that are being done, not only in the high schools, but also in collaboration with the community colleges, with our Area Health Education Center, Native Hawaiian Center of Excellence. We've got a bunch of different pathway programs. And then they compete and get into medical school. So now it's on the right. In medical school, it's 4 years, and there's a standard curriculum or a curricular topic elements that all schools have to have. But I'll spend a few slides showing how our curriculum is a little bit different. And then in their 4th year, they decide what they want to do, what they want to specialize in, be it family medicine, internal medicine, pediatrics. Those are all called core residency programs. And then they do their residency training, which is 3 to 7 years, and they may do additional specialty training after that. And so for geriatrics, they usually do 3 years of internal medicine or 3 years of family medicine, and then 1 to 2 years of geriatric training afterwards to become a board certified geriatrician. And we currently have a lot of pathway programs. As I mentioned, we have an Imiho'ola post-baccalaureate program, which is for underrepresented and disadvantaged students. We currently have 77 medical students each year for 4 years, and we also have 230 residents or fellows. So all in all, we have about 600 learners in our just in the MD kind of the MD program. We've got other master's and PhD students as well. So we have something called graduation objectives, which and for each of these 7 areas, there's 5 to 9 other things called competencies that we expect them to graduate with. And relevant to caring for elderly, I mean, it's all very important. Obviously, you want a physician who knows what they're doing, but really very pertinent to caring for Kupuna are some of the elements and experiences that we have in their caring for patients. IPE is professional education. So we have quite a lot of IPE experiences going on from their 1st through their 4th year. There's a lot of increased emphasis on communication and interpersonal skills, in particular now really understanding what the influence of bias, whether it's their personal bias or implicit bias, seeing in others, that's really critical important. We're really strengthening now the population and community health. We've always done a lot of community service and other things from when I was in medical here, but now it's reshaping to be very deliberate, very place-based. Manoa is striving to become a Native Hawaiian place of learning, as all of you is, and we are embarking on a 5-year strategic plan to also become a Native Hawaiian place of learning within the medical school. And professionalism and wellness and resiliency. So critical incident debriefing is something that's really very important in all settings, but especially in working with Kupuna, because we're trying to do the right things and not cause harm. This is just a quick snapshot of our 4-year curriculum, and the yellow arrows just serve to show where we specifically talk about elderly patients and where they get exposure to. So basically from the first year, they're getting some training and exposure into professional education, other things. But then many students choose to do a summer, like a 4-week elective in geriatrics or some types of research related to that. And then in the second year, this MD7 life cycle is when they really cover geriatrics as well as pediatrics and women's health and OB. And so that's in the first 2 years. And the idea is then they'll actually have a pretty good baseline knowledge so that when they do their clerkships in the third years, and they're going to see a lot of elderly patients in family medicine and internal medicine. And then in the fourth year, we're one of the few schools in the country that actually has a required geriatrics and palliative care medicine course. So it's a 4-week course. So we were very fortunate. We actually have one of the strongest geriatric programs in the country, one of the few departments of geriatrics, and it's because of them that we're able to offer this mandatory training. And so high level of what we've done over the past 3 years to address the need. A lot of focus on longitudinal and keep on reinforcing these key principles. There's been a lot of effort with philanthropy, especially with Kauai and Lanai. And then thanks to many of you on the call, we've been able to start to expand our medical education to the neighbor islands. We have residency, so graduate medical education is residency. And so these are some of the 6 strategic areas, and quality improvement, patient safety is something that we do all the time. And our geriatrics department is actually a leader in that. But every program has to have really strong elements of all of these 5 things. And we do that in the context of the health systems, the larger learning environment. And for geriatrics, they have 22 teaching nursing homes. And so they have quality and patient safety projects in most of them. Many of our faculty serve as a medical director of those nursing homes. In April 2022, on the residency side, we did actually kind of look through, there's a self-study process for accreditation that we have to go through. And so took a very deliberate look at kind of what are the high need areas, and ultimately prioritized this third one, which is that all resident fellows, again, regardless of their specialty, will demonstrate knowledge of best practices for geriatric care and be able to deliver care through age-appropriate pathways and clinically integrated regional care networks. And so this is something that we do in conjunction with our health systems in terms of their clinically integrated care and across the neighbor islands. But again, we want every specialty to understand how important and why and what's different about caring for Kupuna, their families. So there's something about age-friendly health systems, and this is a concept started with the Hartford Foundation. And the idea is that in all settings, you want to do a whole bunch of different things to prevent harm, improve health outcomes, and lower costs. And so the big focus is on making sure that care is aligned with each person's health outcomes, making the medications are necessary and stopping with medication or not, making sure they don't have any meds that are interfering with mobility or causing health risks, identifying delirium, depression, and dementia, and again, making sure that mobility is preserved. And then really overall, this multi-complexity is making sure we're being very holistic. And so this is where our interprofessional education and training comes in. And so these systems here all are level 1 or level 2. age-friendly healthcare systems. And the areas in bold, our Department of Geriatrics helped them achieve this designation. And so work is ongoing to do that. And so how do we continue to grow the workforce, which is the topic of your efforts today and always. And so this is just a little bit of background. We have faculty, and we really have in total almost 2,000 faculty, but 1,700 of them are volunteer. And so if we're going to be expanding either the class size and or experiences in the neighbor islands, then it's important to actually have some at least partially compensated faculty on the neighbor islands, because to expect a volunteer faculty who's working many hours also have the time to really do that deep dive education, teaching, training, feedback is really difficult. And so faculty is a need, and then having additional clinical sites for training. And then the neighbor islands in particular, housing is a really big problem for our learners. It's just very expensive. And so thanks to the legislature in 2022 and then 23, we were able to get 6 additional FTE with the funding, thank you. And then also some additional operating funds to help support medical student and resident rotations on the neighbor islands. We've also been able to have new 0.25 FTE faculty members on Hawaii Island, Maui, and Kauai. These faculty members serve as key points of contact. They help recruit new volunteer faculty. They help promote faculty development, et cetera. And they actively participate in the overall program, not just the clinical experience that they're teaching. And thanks again to many of you, Act 262 was signed into law in July of 2022. This was time-limited funds, but it did allow us to support more than 30 resident and fellow rotations and experiences on the neighbor islands. For this year, we paid close to 60. And the idea with this is to be able to, if we're able to expose our residents, especially, but also our medical students to working on the neighbor islands in different types of clinical settings, they're more likely to consider that, as for their future practice site. And so just as a quick preview, this is still routed through the UH budget process. And we know that, it's going to be a very, tight year with so many, very urgent priorities. But we're hoping that we'll be able to continue expanding our neighbor island physician and pathway programs. And you'll hear a lot more today about many pathway programs. The idea is that, for the neighbor islands, we want to have pairs of people who actually have some time, a physician as well as an instructor level person. The physician in particular would help on the clinical sites and working with the hospitals or some of the clinics, just to make sure that the infrastructure for medical education is there. But also with public health, interprofessional education. And we really want to build stronger connections with UH colleges. And so I'm glad to see Maui College on the phone. I have a meeting with their chancellor soon, and I had a meeting with Kauai the other day. But we really think that if we can better connect the neighbor islands, and the neighbor island high schools, and their health academies, all the things that Jana and everyone else is doing, with our programs, which are a lot of pre-health, and then also with community colleges, with things with the Department of Health, and then also with the SEM, we have a lot of science-focused research programs, things to kind of increase the lab and research capacity on the neighbor islands. Then, we're hoping that would increase the overall path into health professions in general, and then ultimately, a few hopefully to medical school. We also do understand the reach and future impact of diabetes, because we do know that that's one of our number one issues here. And so we're hoping that those will gain some traction. And again, this is just a quick summary. But so for us at JobSum, it's really our next phase of curriculum really emphasizes health system science, a lot of data to drive policy. We're really trying to expand our pathway program. And actually almost all of our research is very focused on health disparities. And then with those results leading to advocacy and working with the other health professional schools at UH and many others on a multi-pronged approach to, reduce our shortages in physicians, but also every other healthcare workforce. And as a just final aloha and mahalo really for the loan repayment program. So this is the HELP program, a healthcare education loan repayment program, 300 applications to date so far. And the committee will be meeting hopefully within the next couple of weeks. And we'll be to, make that first round. But we're anticipating that all 10 billion may go out on this first round. So I'll end here, but thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you. I just want to, since you are going to leave us soon, I don't know if anybody has any questions. I do, since we do have the whole spectrum of our training and service providers here, whether and what you're doing with bringing people in. You say you're going to be meeting with DOE and the community colleges, but what kinds of pathways can be developed to get them into medical school, but also in the healthcare profession? And I wonder.
Sure. Yeah, thanks for the question. So we have a couple of many different things. So as early as 6th grade, our Native Hawaiian Center of Excellence has mentoring, shadowing, kind of peer teaching, coaching programs for kids. Like at Nanakuli High School is the most developed, but also up in North Hawaii. Most of the rest of our area health education programs and the outreach will start in high school. And so right now we have outreach through something called the school education program, where our students will go and work with the health academies. We have about 20 schools with that. We also have something that was started last year and that Winnell and other are part of. And so this is, we call it a Huakai conference. It's just basically bringing all our men's together and bringing folks to campus for tours. We also have summer, like 1 week or sometimes longer, some intensive experiences. Again, usually juniors, seniors in high schools, lots for college, lots for community college as well. We started this year, we were able to get some scholarship money. And so we were able to bring in, I think, 15 Neighbor Island students for the summer program. And that was high school seniors. And then at the community colleges, our pathways are really mostly on the science, the lab science. And so we have something called INBRE program. And it's not necessarily with all community colleges, but it is with many. And that it's a lab, it's a basic science focused research longitudinal research experience. So the students in the community college, but also the faculty will get that mentoring. So the idea is to help build that capacity at the community college level and build that next generation of scientists. And we also have a Pacific Islander focused pathway program for this summer. And we've got a different summer research programs. So those are some of the other some of the big ones we have. And with the AHEC, there's a very large pre-health career core. And so that's usually for college students, college, community college, doesn't have to be UAL. And that has test prep and CAT test prep, mentoring, how do you write a resume, practice interviews, things like that. And so we have that available. And then our Native Hawaiian Center of Excellence also has a scientific, like a scholars program, Native Hawaiian scholars program. And many students do there. It's like a research, but it's also prepping them for medical school. And most of those folks actually do go on to careers either in medicine or in science in PhD level. So.
Okay, great. Thank you. Well, thank you for sharing. I'm going to move on to Jenna Hoshide with the Healthcare Association of Hawaii. She's the Workforce Development Director. So, Jenna.
Thank you. Do you see the slides okay?
We do.
Okay, so I'm going to start and then I'll hand it off to some of my teammates today, and then I'll come back in to talk about the initiatives. But today I wanted to start with some of the data and the job demand. And so just taking a look at the data, we at Healthcare Association of Hawaii in 2019, we released the first workforce initiative report. And that focused on the non-physician patient-facing professions. So it was the first report to really quantify that non-physician patient-facing workforce demand. And then in 2022, we released a second report. So let me show you what that looks like overall. Unfortunately, it's probably not a surprise to most of us, but the job needs increased significantly, 76%. So we went from 2,200 open positions to close to 4,000. So this is overall. Now let's take a look at the position needs in those Kupuna care settings. And so as you can see, the highest need is in the skilled nursing facilities with 634 openings. But take a look at home health, which has a 39% vacancy rate. So 39% of the positions are open. The top job openings for our elder care settings, really no surprise, it's certified nurse aides, so 377 needed. Then specialty nursing. So this is gerontology, home health, hospice, palliative care. Then we have personal care assistants. These don't require a certification, and then licensed practical nurse. And so this is just to give you a sense of where the jobs are at. I'm going to hand it over to Winnell to talk about some of the initiatives in the Hawaii Department of Education.
Thank you, Jana. Good afternoon, Senator Moriwaki, and good afternoon, members of the caucus and guests. I'm Winnell Kaneshiro. I am the director of the Department of Education's fairly new Workforce Development Branch. The Workforce Development Branch was created by Superintendent Keith Hayashi to work with businesses and industry partners to provide students with work-based learning opportunities. We basically are preparing our students for the workforce through multiple strategies, from curriculum and instruction through career technical education, or CTE, and also through our extracurricular activities and work-based learning in the field. Our CTE program designs our career pathways and programs of studies, such as our health services career pathway, based on the needs of our state's labor workforce. And then our CTE team oversees the curriculum instruction provided to our students through the coursework in the schools and ensures our course standards are aligned with industry standards. They also provide opportunities for our students to network with students through student organizations, national student organizations like HOSA, Future Health Professionals. And then my team basically works on advancing the work of the CTE team by working with partners to establish work-based learning opportunities that will allow our kids to apply and extend what they're learning in their classes in an authentic workplace setting. So on this slide, outlines the three different strategies that we have launched in the department. Next slide, please, Jana. So our workforce ready for our health services pathway and programs of study. This is one of 13 pathways in our department. We recently revamped it from 6 to 13. Within our health services pathway, we have 5 programs of study. I know it's kind of small here on this slide. Public health services, diagnostic services, emergency medical services, human performance therapeutic services, and nursing services. Currently, 37 of our 47 high schools offer at least one health services program of study, so one of the 5. We also have several middle schools offering health services as exploratory courses. While we have schools who are not necessarily offering these particular courses, they are offering related courses in their coursework. The offering of the programs at each school is based on student interest and teacher capacity. So a large number of our students need to be interested in taking a course, and then we have to make sure our schools have a teacher who is able to teach the course effectively. Next slide, Jenna. Thank you. To provide our students with opportunities to network with students across the nation who are also interested in careers in the healthcare field, our students participate in HOSA, Future Health Professional Student Organization. This is a national organization, so this allows our students to learn more about healthcare professionals from actual professionals, and then participate in competitions and build relationships with future medical professionals like themselves. 27 schools and approximately 1,100 students participate in HOSA. Our students also organize and participate in service projects to support our kupuna across the state. Some of these projects include students volunteering in senior living facilities, assisting with organizing social events and activities, and then providing classes on things like technology and culture. The slide provides some samples of partnerships that our schools have engaged in. Some of the facilities that's included on the slide are facilities that our schools are currently partnered in or may have recently partnered with or are in the process of establishing a partnership with. So our kids are engaging in the service projects to help them connect with the elderly population, but also to help them to better understand the needs of kupuna and then to build empathy. Ultimately, the department is committed to providing our students with opportunities to explore and experience the array of careers available to them upon graduation. Preparation for us begins with exposure in elementary school through a variety of classroom and school activities. This continues into exploration in middle school through elective courses, after school enrichment programs, guest speakers and field trips, and then culminating in work-based learning experiences at the high school level with our career pathways, and then with activities like problem-based learning, mentoring, and the partnerships with our business and industry for site visits, job shadowing, and internships. We are lucky to have a number of industry partners who are aligned with Superintendent Hayashi's priority in advancing workforce development and workforce innovation, and lucky that they are willing to work with us to provide our students with the training and these work-based learning opportunities. Healthcare Association of Hawaii, Jan and her team, Hawaii Pacific Health, and the community colleges are providing health training services to our students to enable them to develop the skills they need to be gainfully employed. Hawaii Pacific Health is partnering with Waipahu High School to establish an academic health center on campus for students to gain firsthand experience in a clinical setting. John A. Burns School of Medicine will be providing professional development for our teachers so that our teachers have a better understanding of the wide array of career opportunities within the healthcare field. And as Dr. Lee Bakanseo Lam mentioned, they're also offering mentoring and then training for our students. We are currently in the process of establishing partnerships with Ohana Pacific Health in Halemakua, CVS, and the Queen's Health systems. And some of our schools, Ananamaj is on the list. Some of our schools receive Ananamaj anatomy tables, which are life-size 3D, like simulated cadavers that provide our students with the ability to dissect the human body and learn about the different systems of the human body in an interactive and engaging way. So really it's like this big screen with a body that they can kind of manipulate, which is interesting. Hopefully you guys all get a chance to see that. Thanks to our partnerships with industry experts, such as Healthcare Association of Hawaii and the Center of Aging, who are also presenting today. And thanks to funding support through grants like Good Jobs Hawaii, we are better able to ensure that our students have the requisite skills and knowledge to be successful in the healthcare field and to meet the needs of our kupuna. Together, we're all working together to ensure that our students, as Superintendent Hayashi would say, are globally competitive and locally committed, that our students are empowered to be successful anywhere in the world, but choose to work, live, and thrive here at home. So that's our ultimate goal, is to make sure that our kids are able to get gainfully employed and be able to live at home and work at home. Thank you for the opportunity to share the work that we're doing, the Department of Education, and the work that we're doing to support the pipeline to the health services workforce. This is actually one of our more popular pathways, and we appreciate all the help and support that we're getting. Next, sharing about the Kupuna Workforce Initiatives is Dr. Christy. Oh, sorry, you want me to introduce? No?
You back to Jenna? Jenna, you're gonna come back
Oh,
around?
no, we're gonna head to Christy and then I'll share.
Yeah. So Dr. Christy Nishida from the UH Center of Aging.
Thanks,
Thank you.
Linnell. Thank you. Next slide, please. Hi, everyone. I'm Christy Nishita from the UH Center on Aging. I'm happy to share today some work that the Center on Aging is a part of related to elder care. So in particular, on the next slide, you'll see, I'll talk about three things. First, an elder care curriculum that we've been delivering in the high schools. Also efforts to create a career pathway. And finally, our work in crafting direct care workforce recommendations. So first, on the next slide, over the past few years, I've been partnering with Erin Asu, who's a nurse originally from Ko'olauloa, and she's here today. She saw a need to support family caregivers and saw a lack of home and community-based services in Ko'olauloa. And she saw the potential to educate students to be able to care for their own family members and see elder care as a career opportunity for them. So on the next slide, you'll see that our goal was to create an elder care curriculum that would ensure that students had the right mindset around aging. We want students to embrace a more positive, strengths-based approach versus seeing aging as deficit or decline, which can be the case with health professionals. Sometimes, research has documented ageism amongst our healthcare providers because the older patients they encounter tend to be frail or have dementia. And so on the next slide, you'll see our approach, our principles as we teach about aging. The curriculum emphasizes the value of our kupuna, what we can learn from them, what contributions they make to the community. Also understanding how community impacts health and independence. We teach about empathy, also resilience, and promote critical thinking about the needs of our older adults and caregivers. So that's our principles. And very quickly, in the next slides, I'll give some examples of some of the activities that we do in class. So first, I will say we ensure that students learn directly from kupuna and caregivers so that they learn from them and see the value again in their knowledge and experience, not just as recipients of care. On the next slide, we also take a larger view. Yeah, we can go to the next slide. Thank you. Also take a larger view on how community conditions can impact health and how we can build more age-friendly communities. So there's an example of one of the activities that we do with the AARP walk audit worksheet that they take around their community. In the next slide, you'll see we find it important for students to develop empathy. So there's a photo here of Erin going through some of our empathy activities with students. And what we try to do is simulate age-related changes, and we have the students go through common daily tasks. On the next slide, you'll see that we balance that empathy activity with discussions of resilience as well, and how we can adapt to age-related changes as well. On the next slide, we also integrate culture and make connections to people and place. For example, our work started with Kahuku High School, and Kahuku, is a tight-knit community where everyone contributes to helping family and neighbors, and many share responsibility for caring for kupuna. And so it made sense for us to integrate culture into our lessons so that we could help students realize that we weren't teaching something new, rather building on values already instilled in them, and also help students by connecting learning objectives with people and places they were already familiar with. So for example, we ensured that speakers that came to the class and caregivers that came were from their community. Next slide. And so here's our impact. We've reached more than 300 students in the health pathway. Primarily, we've worked with Kahuku High School over multiple years, also Kauai High School. And this also stems from earlier work, earlier iterations of the elder care curriculum at Roosevelt High School in partnership with Kendi Ho, who's also here and also at Iolani School. Next slide, please. And so, you know, as we look at this, as we expand, we are looking to make the elder care modules, you know, the first step in the pathway. So in particular, you know, talking with HAH and Wanel about this. And so on the next slide, you'll see one of the ways that we're expanding. So Erin and I are partnering with Carissa Hawley at Hale Makua, Celine Lagar, who's here as well from Maui College. And we intend to deliver the elder care curricula to Maui High School this year, but also discussions are just beginning to look for ways for students to earn college credits for the high school elder care curricula and look at ways where students can get a waiver for a gerontology related class at Maui College. So what we want to do is make sure students are well supported, get done quicker, and then also address, you know, Hale Makua's workforce needs. Next slide. Third initiative, COA is also partnering with the Executive Office on Aging to develop a direct care workforce report. We are also in the beginning stages of this one, but the scope includes, you know, doing a scan of policies and best practices nationally and locally, doing key informant interviews to understand Hawaii efforts, and developing policy recommendations and action steps for the 2025 legislative session. And we know that there's been a lot of good work done already. And so we don't want to duplicate with this report. We just want to be really comprehensive and gather all the information and just have a comprehensive understanding of our direct care workforce. So that is a brief overview of 3 of our efforts, and thank you for your time. I'll now turn it over back to Jana.
Thank you, Christy. And I just cannot rave enough about the elder care curriculum. And so we have integrated into our high school program, which I will share more about. But going back to that workforce demand, there were 2 themes in terms of needs. One is entry-level positions. So we talked about the need for certified nurse aides, and then that high need for nurses. So we have different strategies to address and fill those jobs. The first strategy to address entry-level positions is about how do we get more students into the DOE health services pathway and that pipeline overall. So the goal is to train more students, certify them, and then have them transition straight into a job. The next strategy is around how do we attract them into those entry-level CNA jobs and then continue to retain them. And so a strategy for retaining them is what we call a glide path. And a glide path is an earn and learn progression pathway. So for example, LPN glide path that we'll talk about enables a CNA to continue working while they pursue an LPN credential. And then the last strategy is really about how we grow our nursing workforce. And so our new grads coming out of school, we would like to retain as many of them as we can locally. And so that requires us to expand nurse residency programs and then looking to have them specialize. So such as specializing in gerontology, that requires additional training, transition to specialty programs. So here is an overview of the initiatives associated with those strategies. The first one I'll talk about is a healthcare sector focus. We are looking at how to increase students' awareness about the breadth of job opportunities and pathways, including those in Kupuna Care. And so we're going to be developing a career awareness and attraction plan. I'll talk today about our high school programs and then adult certificate programs through Good Jobs Hawaii. We'll then talk about the glide path, including the LPN bridge glide path. And I have my friends from Maui College here today to help with that piece. And then we'll close with the transition to specialty and transition to practice programs. Here is an overview of the high school certificate programs. So we offer these to high school seniors. Our goal is really focused around employment. So it's not just about training the student and certifying it, but it's really about them transitioning into a job. So you can see here, we work with several high schools. There's a hub high school. So the top row, we have a CNA program at Farrington High School, but students from McKinley and Kaimuki High are also invited to participate as well. We also have a program at Kauai High School, and that's where we have integrated the elder care curriculum as a prerequisite to that course. Here is a picture of Melody, and so she participated in the CNA certificate course at Farrington and was hired as a CNA at Manoa Cottage. And so what's great is that, you know, she had plans to take the CNA course after school, but when she found out it was offered in high school, she was really excited because she said the tuition was free. So she said, why not? And then she had wanted to pursue that nursing pathway. But I think what's great is the fact that we bring in the employers. And so she heard from Manoa Cottage. She heard from other employers as well. And she had no idea about long-term care. And I think in terms of hearing from those employers and then going on field trips and then doing her clinicals in a long-term care setting, she said what resonated with her was the fact that she could build relationships with the residents. And so I think that's just an example of how exposure and experience within those long-term care settings or those kupuna care settings really help to open our students' eyes so that they want to go work in those settings. So our program has 4 components to it. It really has a pre-training component, which is about that elder care, as well as that job exploration. So they learn about the job, they watch a video about the job, they go on job shadowing field trips. They then submit an application to say, yep, I understand the job duties and I want to go to work in that job after I graduate. They go and then go through the certificate training course at their school or hub school. And then we integrate the employment process. And so this is how our program differs from other high school certificate programs, in that the students will apply and interview for the job while they're in the program, so that by the time they graduate, they have an offer in hand and can move into that job just like Melody. We also have several health certification programs in the partnership with the UH community colleges and under Good Jobs Hawaii. So you can see that there are several certified nurse aid courses offered throughout the state. This is a snapshot of the Good Jobs Hawaii website. So folks who are interested in those courses can go and browse what's available. They can register for the class. And then students in those programs are partnered with Good Jobs employers for employment. Also want to mention that UH Maui College also has an additional course that gives experiences on aging and talks about issues affecting the elderly. You know, when we look about these entry-level training courses, as I mentioned, they are so much more than just the certificate training. And so this is just a graphic to depict kind of all of the other components that need to be in place to ensure success. So we have navigator roles to help students enroll and navigate the process, you know, prerequisite training, and then also this whole piece in terms of supporting employment. Also, employers take on a lot of additional training to bridge the students into the job. And then, of course, wrap services. So we know that there are challenges in terms of transportation, childcare, or tuition support as well. And so providing these wrap services helps to increase and open up access to these programs. The second piece is about Glide Paths. I'm really excited to share about the CNA to LPN Bridge program because, you know, it's one thing to attract students into that entry-level job, but we want to grow them and ensure that they can make a living here in Hawaii, given our high cost of living. And so how do we help them to progress onto that next level at the LPN? And so Previous to this program, there wasn't a good earn and learn option, but happy to say we've been working for several years with an awesome team, Hawaii State Center for Nursing, the UH Maui College team, and employers, Ohana Pacific Health and Kaiser, along with their union, and have developed this earn and learn program. So I want to give a little bit of time to Mary Farmer because she is the person who created this wonderful earn and learn program. And just share a couple pieces. You know, the students, to enable this model, they do their clinicals at their place of work, and also the employer helps to provide some of that clinical education. And then also the employer and the education program work hand in hand and coordinate so that they can manage the work and education schedule. So Mary, can you unmute yourself and just share a little bit about the students in the program?
Sure. Yeah. Thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Mary Farmer here from UH Maui College. And we started the first cohort. We call it the CNA to LPN Bridge cohort in January of 23. We admitted 34 students. And in this very same year, in December of 23, they will graduate and they will be, they'll earn their certificate of achievement in practical nursing, and they'll be eligible to sit for the PN board exam. The neat thing about this opportunity is that it provided an opportunity for a lot of students to get into nursing school that wouldn't have otherwise been accepted. And actually, from the data collection, we have found out that the majority of these students had already applied to nursing schools throughout the islands, but were not accepted. Because as everyone knows, it's very competitive. But one of the things we did was we made holistic admissions. So our approach to admissions was very different. You had to have at least 6 months or more of healthcare experience before you could be considered for the program. And I think over 33% of the students in this program have 10 or plus years of direct healthcare experience, working as either a certified nursing assistant or a medical assistant, and in some other jobs as well. And so it's been really neat to see a lot of students get to come into the program and go to nursing school who have wanted to have the opportunity, but never could, just because of the competitiveness. And so we have these 34 students moving through the program. Some interesting things have come out of it. For example, I have one student from Kaiser who has been a pediatric medical assistant at Kaiser Clinics for 18 years, got accepted to the PN Bridge program, has now been doing all of her clinicals in long-term care, and says that she is now torn. When she graduates and gets her LPN license, she has had so much fun at Halemakua, getting to know the Kupuna and the family type of atmosphere that they have at work. And she's considering working in long-term care. She said she never would have considered that previously. But now that she's been in the program for a year and she's had the exposure, just like several other people talked about on this call, she realizes that it's fun, that it's not really, there's so many myths about long-term care and working with Kupuna. They think that it's, not a fun environment, that it's, depressing, and then they get in there and they realize that, there's joy in those places, and that all the people that work there are like a big family. And I think it's really important for the students to get exposure to the environment, and then realize that, it can be a fun place to work. And I see that a lot with our CNA students, and now with our LPN students. And so, giving them an opportunity, getting these kids in at the high school level, the opportunity to get in there and see what these environments are really like, as opposed to what the stereotypes are, really make a big difference.
Thanks, Tracy. I'm gonna, I think we have 4 minutes, so I want to make sure Marshall has some time as well. But thank you so much, Mary. And then just really quick, Laura, if you could just mention, because there was a separate bill last legislative session. And so, Laura, if you could kind of speak to the needs for our upcoming session.
Sure. Mahalo to the committee and especially Representative Hashimoto for the support in expanding our LPN training. Act 74 directly impacts our training capacity. So as Mary mentioned, we have expanded from 10 seats in 2022 to 32 currently and 60 next year. And that's a direct result of funding such as this. This particular funding will be supporting faculty incentives. To get qualified nursing faculty is challenging. They make at least twice as much in the field. So getting them to the classroom and clinical instruction can be a little tough. So this is very helpful for that and expanding our capacity. And then more importantly, this funding, the majority of the funding is going to go directly to students who can get prerequisites. Prerequisites, they need at least 5 courses to get into the program as well as take a standardized test. And this gives them that opportunity to have tuition completely paid and supplies for all of those courses and requisites even before they can apply to the program. So with this funding, we know that we can fund at least 100 students with all of those prerequisites and prerequisite testing prior to even applying. So that's going to be a big help. So the only ask is we would love another opportunity at this same funding for the future. Mahalo.
Thank you, Laura. And then just really quick, the last strategy around nursing. So a new long-term care nurse residency program has been created thanks to Hawaii State Center for Nursing and HealthStream, as well as Good Jobs funding. Also launching on the 20th are new transition to specialty programs in the areas that we talked about previously. So with that, a lot of these great initiatives are focused and funded by Good Jobs Hawaii. So I want to hand it over to Marshall to talk more about Good Jobs Hawaii.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Janet, very, very much. Well, I take care of the funding portion of it, but we really like to see how this funding changes lives and impacts our community across the state. And so I'm glad that that's where we spent most of our time focusing on. So again, I'll speak very, very briefly, but Good Jobs Hawaii, it is a $35 million workforce development fund that provides no-cost skills and education training in demand and well-paying jobs. And that's our goal, is to create career pathways that lead to well-paying jobs for Hawaii residents, to ensure that Hawaii residents can stay in Hawaii. So we're building our workforce in Hawaii. So we're supporting industry in Hawaii. Good Jobs Hawaii and the Challenge Grant was one of 32 grants that was selected across the United States as the American Rescue Plan Act and Build Back Better. Next slide, please. So what we do is we offer the career training through our network and system of University of Hawaii and our community college systems across the state. We provide wraparound support. As Jana mentioned, those navigators are very, very key to the success of individuals going from their participant training into a good quality job. So that wraparound support is as essential as the training that we are providing. And then we're looking to support employers that have those quality jobs. With Good Jobs Hawaii, right now we are focusing in 4 primary sectors. And those 4 primary sectors that we focus in are in healthcare, which we have talked about today, but we're also supporting information technology, clean energy and skilled trades, and creative industry. Next slide. Okay, so our data update since we've launched Good Jobs Hawaii, and that was with HANA Career Pathways, Good Jobs Challenge, and now Good Jobs Oahu, we have had 1,900 residents been enrolled in a Good Job supported training. The vast majority of those residents have enrolled in healthcare, so we've had 1,079 participants in that. Information technology has had 269 enrollees, clean energy, skilled trade, 219, creative industry, 27, and then our HANA Career Pathway, which represents other sectors that might not focus on our 4 main sectors, had 306 trainings there. Our job outcomes we're expecting in the next 6 months. So this data is now just coming in right now, but we've had 60% of those individuals complete those trainings. And now the vast majority of those individuals are now on those externships, internships, and getting placed in employment. And we have over 300 job placements right now. Thank you, Jana.
So I think you can see that there's a lot of wonderful initiatives and a lot of good learnings. Good Jobs goes until 2025. And so I think as we're learning, we'll also be looking to the future and seeing how we can make these programs sustainable in the future.
Okay, thank you, everyone. Really appreciate the update on what you're all doing. It's very exciting. And I'm going to open it up for a few questions because I'm sure everybody's excited to hear the progress you've made in just about a year. Yeah. So thank you. I see Donald Sakamoto, you have a question?
Yes, Senator, thank you. Donald Sakamoto. I like the presentation, but as a blind individual, can I get this the slideshow in a text or Word formats later so I can review it through my talking software? And regarding nurses, do they have to have a mandatory to have a master's degree to get into the workforce?
No, actually, the licensed practical nurse is a certificate program. There's also an associate's degree program for nursing and then bachelor's degree program as well.
Well, thank you for clarifying that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Rick Tabor.
Well, just real fast, how can legislative Kupuna Caucus support you guys? What do you need going forward?
Yes, I think as Laura, as Dean Laura Nagel mentioned, I think if we can support on that same bill that was funded this past legislative session for the LPN program, that would be wonderful. And then I think as we're looking to continue on the Good Jobs programs, post Good Jobs, I think that's what we would be looking to support. And then Christy on your side and Wanel.
Yeah, we don't have a legislative ask right now. I think, we will in the future, and we're in it for the long term in terms of being really thoughtful about how we can make an impact in this area. So, for example, with the direct care workforce report that we're doing with EOA, we are looking to craft policy recommendations to be ready not for this 2024, but the following legislative session. So no ask right now.
Okay, but to make it sustainable, I think that's really important. So just heads up on October 23rd, Monday from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, Kupuna Council will be doing its legislative priorities. This is actually out to everybody, but if you guys anybody wants to come and join us, we're actually going to do our first live in person since COVID. We're going to be over at the Honganji at Poly. It's going to be a hybrid, and get a hold of me and we'll set it up. Have you come and do a little presentation along with everybody else. That's going to be part of our prioritizing what bills we're going to support going forward. So little FYI, but also this is a great program. Everything that I've heard here is exactly what we need. So let's make it sustainable going forward. Thanks, everybody.
And in that regard, in terms of the LPN program or any other issues that you would like to bring up at the end of this program, I'm going to announce that we are looking at, so the Kupuna Caucus does look at all the needs in healthcare for the elderly or any care for the elderly and long-term care. And we come up with legislation or funding requests, and we will prioritize it among the 200 plus members of this Kupuna Caucus. So it would really help us to get some information back from you on, say, the LPN training and its needs, but it would be helpful to get information as we go forward. So that might be a place for you to log in terms of, what we can do for you to continue this program. And I see a chat question from Kathy Wyatt. She's with Adult Care Center. So this is community-based programming, how they can participate as clinical sites for CNA students. So right now you're with the care facilities, but is there any way that it can expand to community-based service centers?
Yes, I mean, I think they're always looking for clinical sites. And so, we can help, or Marshall can help to make those connections to the UH Community College programs. Also, if you're looking to participate as a Good Jobs employer as well. You can go to the Good Jobs site on the employer tab and sign up and sign the pledge, and that will start the process to fold you into Good Jobs.
Okay. So the Good Jobs, Marshall, you want to put the Good Jobs Hawaii website and your email in the chat?
Yeah,
We'll get
not a problem. So I just put in the goodjobshawaii.org. And as Jana mentioned, please jump in there if you guys want to be involved with Good Jobs Hawaii. Go Good Jobs, click on the employer tab and sign the pledge. I'm going to put in my email here so I can field any questions that might come from the caucus. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Marshall. Any other questions? Okay, I want to thank all of you. It's been very informative and also for all your progress in the short amount of time that you've had to really build up a really major area with workforce shortage really facing us at all, from the community-based to the institutional program. So mahalo to Dr. Buen Consuelo Lam, Jana Hoshide, Wanel Kaneshiro, Christy Nishida, and of course, Marshall Norman with the money bags. But it really helps. And thank you, Mary Farmer, for your standing up this great program as well. And Laura Lees-Nagel. So I don't see any other questions. So I do want to thank you so much for giving us your time. And we hope to keep in touch with you and see anytime you want to come back to us. But definitely, if you've got some of these initiatives that you'd like to see us support, you'll see in the chat, I think we will put in our link. So please let us know and we will bring it up. We will go through the process of prioritizing all the issues, but definitely workforce shortages, number one, I think, on everybody's radar. So thank you all very much.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Okay, so moving on to, well, just discussing this already, but the bills for the 2024 Kupuna Caucus package now being accepted. There is in the chat, I think Charles put in the chat, the link. We will collect all of these. Charles will collect that either via the link or by emailing him, and he's going to put it in the chat. The deadline is November 2nd because we will have presentations from those who submit their initiatives to us on the 3rd, which is the next Kupuna Caucus meeting, November 3rd. So if you will, send all of your initiatives in, and we will have our vetting November, or not the vetting, but at least the presentations, and thereafter the vetting of all these initiatives, really good things in workforce development. So please, even if you're not in this Kupuna Caucus, what we heard today, as Rick said, these are really important issues to us. So feel free to email Charles or just put into the link what those initiatives might be. So everyone, that's the deadline, November 2nd. Please send in your initiatives, your ideas for legislation or funding, and we will have the next meeting on November 3rd, where we will hear about all these initiatives and then thereafter have the voting by everyone on those, and those we'll take forward. We take the top 5 forward because we have so many good ideas. We have to whittle it down for the House that takes 5 legislative proposals each year. And I'm going to turn it over also to my co-convener, Rep Hashimoto, if he has anything more to add.
No, thank you to the presenters. I think a lot of them have Maui ties, so I appreciate them jumping on and presenting.
Maui.
Hopefully we can sustain some of the funding, but I look forward to the proposals that we will be looking at for Kupuna Caucus this coming session. I think we fared fairly well, and hopefully we can push some initiatives forward this year. I know it's going to be a little bit more challenging because funding is going to be a little bit more difficult compared to last year, but I remain very optimistic.
Okay, so thank you all very much. Have a good weekend, and thank you all presenters for informing us about great work you're doing. Continue with the great work. Okay.